So I will run through the quick review notes very quickly as we get started with example one here. In the quick review, remember that break-even occurs when profit is equal to zero, which the same thing happens when revenue is equal to cost. In that case, you are making no money. You are at $0 profit, but also you are not in the hole. You have not lost money in whatever venture you are engaged in. So we can use either one of those depending on the context of the problem. With that, moving on to example one for this section, a business property is purchased for $122,800 and depreciates at a rate of $1,024 a month. We need to write an equation that represents the value of this building over time. So again, as I mentioned in the Schlegel notes a couple of videos ago, I'm going to use slope-intercept form for these anytime that I possibly can. And I can always use slope-intercept form as long as I have the y-intercept or the initial value. And I do, those are both the same. The y-intercept and the initial value are the same thing, just said differently. So I do have the initial value of the building. It is $122,880. So I am going to use slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b. That being said, again, it's important for me to remember that m is my slope, or my rate of change. B is my y-intercept. And so my slope, or my rate of change in this case, the value of the building is changing by $1,024 a month. It is going down, so that does need to be negative. And my initial value of the building was $122,880. Okay, there is an equation that represents the value of that building. We need to identify and interpret the slope in this equation. And so I'm going to do that, but I'm going to pause the video so you don't have to sit through me doing all of my writing, and I will be right back. And magically, I have written those two things out. So you can see that I have identified and interpreted the slope for part B. And I have identified and interpreted the y-intercept for part C. So the slope is negative 1,024, meaning that the value of the building is going down by $1,024 per month. And the value of the y-intercept is $122,880, meaning that the building was originally worth $122,880. And so on to the next question. We have sort of a 2-in-1 for part D. How long will it take the building to have a value of $66,560? We're going to use our pal Wolfram to help us figure that out. And then the second part of that is how long will it take it to have a value of 0? So right here, we're going to slap our equation in there. Our equation is y equals negative 1,024 x plus 122,880. And so again, what we're trying to figure out is when will the value of the building be 66,560. And so that's going to go in for our y value. Wolfram will do the work for us, and it's going to spit out 55. So that 55 is going to be 55 months. And so I'm just going to write that down here so I've got it really quick, and then I will interpret that, or I'll write a sentence about that in a moment. The second part of this question was asking when will the value of the building be $0? And that would be fully depreciated for tax purposes. And so you would no longer have to claim the value of this building as an asset on your taxes. And that is going to take 120 months. So again, on my iPad, I'm just writing down 55 and 120 so that I can have those numbers to interpret them. And as I did last time, I will pause while I write so you don't have to sit through my writing. And we'll be right back. Okay, so I do have that it will take 55 months for the building to be worth $66,560, and it will take 120 months for the value of the building to be $0. Next, for E, everyone, we are asked to find f of 32. And so I will remind you that in the Schlegel notes in the beginning, we discussed the idea that f of 32 is exactly the same thing as y. And so what we're actually going to do is we're going to use our same equation, but instead of putting y in front, we are going to put f of 32 in front. And so f of 32 is negative 1024. X plus 122, 880. Now, Wolfram is not going to like f of 32. So do not put f of 32 in Wolfram because you'll end up with something that you don't want. And so as I mentioned, y and f of, in this case, 32 can be used interchangeably. So in Wolfram, we're going to leave that as a y. And we just need to recognize that the 32 in f of 32 is telling us that 32 is the x value. So what we actually need to do is replace x with 32 in the equation. And we'll feed that to Wolfram again, putting y right here instead of f of x, because Wolfram will not be happy with us putting f of x in there. So I will swing f of 30, or I will swing 32 in for x, and we will get the value 90,112. I'll be back in just a moment with an explanation of what that 90,112 is. Okay, so I kind of scrunched on the bottom of my iPad paper here. F of 32 is 90,112, meaning that after 32 months, the value of the building is $90,112. That's it for example 1. We'll be back with the next shortly.